Are your business and your life being ruled by short-term things like paying the bills, surviving, making sure you get things done? Or are they being directed towards an outcome or outcomes that reflect the legacy you want to leave behind as a business person and as an individual? Zig Ziglar used to talk about survival, success, and significance. The survival stage is focused on just getting by, just being able to do what needs to get done today. It's extremely obsessed on the short term because that's all it can see. The success mindset is focused on growth and making money, but its obsession can sometimes lead us to only focus on ourselves, obsess about the future, lose our present moments, and only be thinking of some future better day. Significance is grounded in the present, and it's also grounded in the service of others. It allows us to create grander and bolder visions to be the people we most want to be. If you want to begin with the end in mind, as the popular Stephen Covey phrase goes, we have to get clear about what is that vision for your business and what is that vision for your life. Not just the short-term ones, but the long-term ones, and even the ones after you're long gone. I invite you to consider a basic concept. You can have a 20-year vision personally and know that there are things you're going to work towards. And if you have a vision that extends out this far, it does not need to be obsessively detailed. In fact, the best ones are focused on only 2 or 3 main areas that are broader picture items. And if you can make those happen, you're probably going to be happy. These things center around being happy in life, having good relationships, big picture things such as making sure you're committing to deliver value in your community, that you are connected with the people you love. It might involve your relationship with your creator. All these different things can be high level, and they might not even get into very specific goals that involve numbers, but they involve qualitative ideas of how you want life to be. That is, some people will say, you'll just know it when you see it. We know what it's like when we're happy in life. We know what it's like when we're content and we're fulfilled in our relationships. We know when we're leaving from a place of love and connection. We know when we are leading from a place of service and focusing on what we are here to do as individuals, what we're called to do. And so I invite you to consider, if you could only achieve 3 things over the next 20 years, personally, if you had a magic wand and you could make sure these 3 things happened, what would those 3 things be? Those 3 things being things that if you got them right, everything else in your life would fall into order. Nothing else would really matter as much because you got those things correct. What are those 3 things for you? If you need to, pause this for a moment and really reflect on those. It can make such a huge difference in your life. Now, once you look at the 20-year vision of your life, it becomes obvious to realize that you want a similar vision for your career. So if you work for someone else, you might call this your work vision. If you're the entrepreneur or a business owner, you might call this your business vision. It could be your vocation vision if you believe you can align your vocation, your calling, with your ability to make income. Not everybody can do that. But think about over the next 20 years, if 20 years from now, we're talking and we're looking back at your 20 years that are happening from now until then, what would need to have happened, as Dan Sullivan says in his R Factor question, for you to feel happy with your progress? What would need to have been true over those 20 years? And again, if you had a magic wand and you could only control 3 of those variables, you could only make 3 things happen, what would it look like? Usually those things center around service of others, helping your team members grow, helping your clients create awesome things in their lives, perhaps making breakthroughs in your field or contributions that no one else has seen before. Take a moment and think about, if you could only achieve 3 things in the next 20 years, but you knew you could achieve these 3 things, and if these 3 things made sure just about everything went well, what would those 3 things be in your business or your career? Now, once you take a 20-year vision of things, all of a sudden, things take on proper perspective. The argument with a friend over a political position or a football team or whatever it might be becomes less important when viewed through the eyes of a 20-year vision. When you're thinking about what do I need to do to make these bigger things happen, all of a sudden the smaller things become simultaneously more important, that you get them in alignment with your vision, and the distractions become less important because you realize in the 20-year scheme of things, it's not going to matter whether or not your team won this match, whether or not your political idea was right, whether or not you won that argument with a friend, or you proved yourself right that the definition of whatever word was such and such, and you looked that up and you got to point and laugh at them or whatever it might be. You're going to be focusing on bigger things. And these are the sort of things that keep you aligned. So as a father, I can tell you that I, at times, have done vision work about what it's like to be a great father. Haven't always set a whole lot of goals, but I know how unbelievably important that is for me. And now, as the father of a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, I can tell you that so many of my decisions and so many of my choices are inspired by, motivated by the love I have for my children and for my spouse, and for our joint goals as parents to create this awesome environment and experience for our children. So being aligned with that has been a 20-year goal for us, but it's also a legacy goal. We know that in most situations, the parents die before the children, or the grandchildren or the great-grandchildren might be people that we only get to know partially, or we might not get to know. And so from that perspective, there's a legacy we want to leave behind as parents. There's a legacy that you or I want to leave behind as people. And again, if you just think of it from a standpoint of 2 or 3 things, and you might say that these are the things you want to be remembered by, and you want people to think of or talk about you when they think of you. And yet at the same time, if you even put aside reputation for a moment and what people say about you, and simply think about, if you could give the world, if you could give the people you love just 3 things, what would those 3 things be from a personal life standpoint? Would it be that you would make sure your children knew that they were loved? Would it be that you would donate time in your community and do things that help other people have great life? Would you leave money behind, or ideas or wisdom behind, to some of your favorite charitable or spiritual or religious organizations? What would that be? What would those 3 things be that if you left those behind, you know that as much as you could possibly know something, that the world would be a better place? And then finally, if we now turn to your business life or your career, and we look at it through the standpoint and the lens of legacy, this is something that for many years was not very important to me. I was so focused on simply my 20-year goals of being a great dad and a great spouse and provider for our children. And now as they're reaching a certain age, and just personally, I've been more of a lifestyle entrepreneur from a standpoint of saying, well, as long as my family's taken care of and I'm making enough money, I'm really not concerned if I build a business. And as I'm getting older and realizing what sort of impact I could have, the idea of having a legacy that's left behind me, like watching a Zig Ziglar have his work be continued, watching one of my mentors, Debbie Ford, and watch her work being continued, and thinking, wow, how great would it be if some of the best work I did, the things and the tasks and the ideas and the insights that have positively impacted people's lives, could be carried on, not in some narcissistic way so it's making sure that my name is remembered, but simply from a standpoint of, if I've created good in the world, and if in my wisdom I can help others do that even more, how could I build my business in a way? What gifts could I leave behind to the people that have served with me, my team members, or the people that are my partners, or the clients that I've helped? How can I do that? And so I encourage you to consider, what 3 things, if you knew you could leave anything to your clients, your team members, the world, what 3 things would you leave from a career or business standpoint? I hope you find this inspiring, and I hope you find this clarifying for where you want to be with your life. There are some tools which I'm going to share with you that allow you to write this down in a simple way. So you could just be listing this and say, wait, I'm going to write a list of 3 things for each of these categories. And then there's a more complex tool I have called the Legacy Vision Matrix, and it goes into a little more depth, and both of them have their place. It's great to be able to see things from a big picture standpoint, and it's also very powerful to really go into the weeds at times and to look at, in each of these areas, a little more depth of what it would look like so we can hone in more. I hope this serves you. I hope you're already creating a life that inspires you, serves others, inspires the loved ones around you, and creates abundance for you to share with others, for your team members, your family, your clients, and everyone around you. At any step of the way, please always feel free to reach out to me and let me know how I can serve you better. As always, I look forward to helping you create more impact and more income in less time. Do what you do best so you can fully enjoy your family, your friends, your freedom, and your life. Thanks so much for listening. And if you'd like to get copies of the tools, look at the links below where you can learn more. Thank you.